Have you ever noticed how, in a crowded room, certain men naturally draw people in? They're not the loudest, not the best looking, not the richest or most well known. But there's something about the way they carry themselves that pulls others toward them. It's not easy to describe, but it's clearly there. They move differently. While others dart their eyes around, hungry for attention, this man's gaze is calm and steady. While some are half-focused, juggling what they're saying with what they want to get, he stays present. While others try to impress or seek approval, he just is, relaxed, confident, grounded. Women notice the difference too. Around him, they seem to breathe easier. Their walls come down. They open up in ways they don't around most men. And it's not because he's using tricks or acting dominant. It's actually because he's not doing any of that. He's not demanding anything. He's not trying to pull energy from them. He doesn't make them feel like they have to put on a show. What makes him stand out isn't a pickup line or a social tactic. It's a completely different relationship with his own energy. While most men are constantly driven by their sexual urges, he's not ruled by them. He has something rare, what you could call a desexualized mind. Now, that doesn't mean he's shut off or repressed. It's the opposite. He might feel desire even more deeply, but he's no longer controlled by it. He doesn't act on impulse. He isn't chasing every attraction. The psychologist Carl Jung talked about this. He said, "Where love rules, there is no will to power, and where power predominates, there love is lacking." Power and love aren't enemies, but when you're unaware, one can take over and block the other. A desexualized mind doesn't remove desire or strength. It just means you're in control of them. You use them with awareness instead of being used by them. Look around. We're constantly surrounded by ads using sex to sell everything: food, fashion, tech. Media often reduces women to objects. Social platforms reward shallow content. All of this pulls men toward lust-based thinking. It's not random. Men who are always reacting to desire are easy to manipulate. They follow patterns. They're easier to sell to. Their self-doubt can be turned into profit. The world doesn't benefit from men being self-aware. It benefits from them staying stuck. Jung saw this coming long ago. He warned that when we ignore the deeper meanings behind instincts, they don't disappear. They twist into problems. When sexual energy is disconnected from its deeper meaning, it turns into addiction, obsession, and confusion. So, in this noisy world, a man who reaches even a little bit of inner clarity will stand out. He'll give off a vibe that's rare, something steady, whole, and real. That's why this inner shift is so powerful. It's your greatest asset. First, it frees you from your own unconscious habits. Second, it makes your presence unique and clear in a world full of distractions. Third, it changes how people, especially women, feel around you. Women pick up on it fast. When a man isn't led by his desires, he shows it without saying a word. His eyes don't wander. He listens deeply. His energy doesn't pull at them. But when a man is still stuck in desire, women feel that too. Even if he's saying the right things, his energy tells another story. His eyes linger too long. He zones out mid-conversation. His presence feels like it's asking for something. Even if a woman can't explain it, her body knows. She becomes tense. She keeps a distance. Something in her senses she's being looked at as a prize, not as a person. Jung explained this with his idea of anima projection. He said men often project their inner image of the feminine onto real women. Instead of seeing who she really is, the man sees a fantasy, a hope, a fix for his emptiness. And women feel that. They feel like they're being used as a stand-in, not truly seen. But when a man starts doing the inner work, when he starts recognizing and integrating these parts of himself, things shift. Suddenly women feel seen, not judged, understood, not analyzed. He's no longer trying to get something. His eyes hold steady. His mind stays with their words. His presence feels safe and open. This kind of safety isn't about being nice or non-threatening. It's deeper. Women can feel when a man's energy has no strings attached. That's when they can actually open up. That's when real connection can happen. Not because they've consciously decided he's trustworthy, but because something deep inside them knows. Their intuition picks it up. They're not being objectified, they're being recognized. Jung called this process withdrawing projections. When a man does this, he finally sees others for who they are, not as answers to his inner struggles. Jung also said that when two people meet, It's like a chemical reaction. If it's real, both people change. But that only happens when you stop projecting. Have you ever noticed how women seem more drawn to men who aren't chasing sex? Who don't need them for validation? It's not because those men are using some trick. It's just that they've moved beyond the need to chase. And that calm, centered energy, it speaks louder than any words ever could. When you let go of the desperate urge to chase sex, you naturally become more attractive. When you stop using people as tools to satisfy your own cravings, real connection becomes possible. This is what Jung understood, and what most men miss. Separating yourself from your impulses doesn't make you weaker, it actually makes you stronger. And this strength goes far beyond dating or social success. A man who's ruled by his desires lives in constant hunger. Even when he gets what he wants, it never lasts. The satisfaction fades fast, and the craving returns. No matter how many partners, experiences, or wins he collects, something still feels missing. But once you break out of this loop, you find something deeper. Peace that doesn't depend on getting more. Your sense of worth no longer comes from what you can collect. You realize you already have what you truly need. Jung described this inner shift as the transcendent function, the mind's ability to rise above inner conflicts and create a new, higher state. It's not about shutting down your desires or giving in to them. It's about going beyond that tug of war and finding balance, a place where both discipline and desire have their place. This change impacts every part of life. What once came from a place of insecurity, your work, your relationships, your creative output, now comes from wholeness. You're not acting to prove yourself. You're acting from a place of fullness. You haven't erased your needs. You've just brought them into alignment with a broader, more stable sense of self. And when you live from that place, life responds. You might notice people treating you differently. Doors open that once stayed shut. Conversations go deeper. Your presence seems to draw the right people and opportunities without effort. This isn't about forcing things or gaming the system. It's about the way your inner state affects the outer world. Jung referred to this as synchronicity, meaningful coincidences that aren't just luck, but signs of inner and outer alignment. A man who's at peace inside tends to find peace around him. The clearer and more whole you become internally, the more the world reflects that same coherence back to you. People may not consciously understand why they trust you or want to work with you, but they feel it. In a world where many men are pulled in different directions, saying they want peace but causing drama, claiming they want love but acting out of fear, you stand out simply by being whole. Having a desexualized mind doesn't mean you get rid of desire or pretend it's not there. It means you form a healthy relationship with it, one where you're in charge, not your impulses. Ironically, this makes your sexual energy more powerful, not less. It becomes deeper, more meaningful, and far more attractive. It flows from connection, not conquest. Getting to this level starts with psychological objectivity, the ability to step back and watch what's going on inside you without getting lost in it. When you feel desire, instead of becoming the desire, you recognize it's just a part of you. That little bit of distance creates room to think, room to choose. That space is where real growth begins. But to reach it, you'll need to face the parts of yourself you usually ignore. Your fear, your neediness, your hidden anger or shame. These pieces don't go away by pretending they're not there. In fact, the more you deny them, the more they control you. This is the shadow Jung talked about. Those parts of yourself you reject, but that still shape your behavior from the background. He wrote that the shadow challenges your whole ego, and that becoming aware of it takes real moral strength. Most people avoid that work their whole lives. But if you face it honestly, if you admit those darker sides are real and part of you, something changes. Your shadow doesn't gain power from how dark it is. It gains power from being hidden. What you won't face runs your life from behind the scenes. Along with this shadow work, you also need to strengthen your ego. Not in an arrogant way, but in a solid, grounded way. A weak ego gets pulled around by whatever feelings are loudest. A strong ego stays steady. It engages with your inner world without being overwhelmed by it. And as your ego becomes stronger and your shadow becomes integrated, something amazing begins to take shape. You stop feeling like a collection of scattered parts and start feeling like a whole person. Not centered around just your ego, but around something deeper, the self. Jung made a key distinction here. The ego is your conscious mind, your day-to-day identity. But the self is the full picture. It includes your conscious self, your unconscious mind, your deeper instincts, your highest values, all of it. He wrote that the self is not just the center, but also the full circle. It's the totality of who you are. The desexualized mind forms when your ego develops a conscious relationship with this deeper self. That relationship brings inner authority. You no longer need others to constantly tell you who you are. This creates real confidence, not the kind that comes from showing off or puffing up your image, but the quiet confidence of a man who knows himself. Jung even said that reaching the self is like finding the divine, not as an external god, but as the sacred core within. That part of you that brings your inner world into order. The self becomes the new center of your life, guiding everything else. In his work, The Ego and the Unconscious, Jung described this dynamic as the axis of the psyche, the main line around which your whole mental life spins. The ego no longer reacts blindly to emotions or fantasies. Instead, it enters into conversation with them. This is what Jung called active imagination, a way of interacting with your inner world, engaging with its symbols and voices without letting them take over. This is more than theory. It's the real path of personal growth. Jung called it individuation, becoming the unique person you were meant to be. You can't walk that path while stuck in lust or raw impulse. That energy must be refined, focused, and used for something higher. And the process isn't a straight line. You'll have breakthroughs followed by setbacks. You'll slip into old patterns, then find your way back. This isn't failure. It's how real change works. Each time you come around again, you go a little deeper. Each insight strengthens your awareness. Jung described this as the circumambulation of the self, like slowly walking in a spiral toward the center, seeing it from every angle. He saw this as the great work of inner transformation, the psychological version of turning lead into gold. And that's exactly what we're doing here, turning raw, unfocused desire into something conscious, meaningful, and powerful. It's not just about becoming a better man. It's about becoming your whole self. This process of transformation, the inner alchemy Jung spoke of, follows a precise symbolic path. In alchemy, it begins with nigredo, the darkening. This is the confrontation with your own shadow, the uncomfortable recognition of what you've ignored within yourself. Then comes albedo, the whitening, a stage of clarity where new consciousness starts to emerge from the darkness. Finally, there is rubedo, the reddening, the reintegration of passion, instinct, and desire, but at a higher, more integrated level. The desexualized mind lives in this third phase. It doesn't reject instinct, it refines it. It doesn't shut down desire, it puts it in proper relationship with the whole. And the effects of this inner work ripple out into every area of life. Your relationships, especially with women, are no longer tainted by hidden agendas or unmet needs. You're no longer trying to fill an internal hole through external validation. You connect not because you need something, but because you have something to offer. Your work gains new meaning. It's no longer just compensation for feelings of inadequacy. It becomes an authentic expression of who you are. Your entire presence changes. Instead of taking, you give. Instead of using, you serve. And people feel the shift. In a world obsessed with appearance and drenched in objectification, the man who is no longer controlled by his desires becomes a sanctuary of honesty and connection. You don't have to say a word. People feel it. Women feel it. They sense they are no longer being sized up or subtly evaluated. Instead, they're being seen, truly seen, for who they are. And in a world starving for that kind of attention, this makes you magnetic. You become the kind of man others naturally turn toward, not because of tricks or polished techniques, but because you've accomplished something rare. You've stepped outside the grip of unconscious drive. This is the power Jung understood. This is the quiet strength of the desexualized mind. This is what separates a man from the masses in a culture that profits off his fragmentation. The question isn't whether this path exists. It does. The real question is whether you're ready to walk it. Because when you stop being a slave to your impulses, you don't lose anything essential. You gain access to something few men ever reach: full humanity. And within that wholeness is a kind of power most can't even imagine, an energy others recognize, even if they can't name it. So ask yourself, how long will you let unconscious forces dictate your life? How long will you confuse reflex for choice? How long will you live fractured when the path to integration is already open before you? This journey isn't easy. It demands honesty, courage, discipline. But for those who take the first steps, something remarkable happens. You begin to realize that the peace you've been chasing externally has been within you the whole time. It begins with one shift, no longer being merged with your desires, but entering into conscious relationship with them. No longer reacting from compulsion, but choosing from awareness. This shift changes everything. You change. And from that change flows a deeper kind of power. Not the power to dominate, but the power to create, to chart your own course, to live with intention, to move from being a passive product of your conditioning to an active author of your life. And the world responds, not because you're manipulating it, but because your inner clarity begins to resonate outward. Coherence attracts coherence. Integration draws in opportunities, relationships, experiences that mirror your internal structure. Jung said it plainly. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. But when you begin this work, you flip the script. What was once fate becomes choice. What was once compulsive becomes intentional. What once dragged you down now becomes fuel for ascent. This is the essence of the desexualized mind. It's not repression, it's redirection. It's not about weakness, it's about integration. And in a world where most men are drowning in unconscious identification, you become rare, whole, free. To those who already have, who have integrated, who have become, more is given. This isn't mysticism, it's psychology. When your energy is no longer scattered by craving, it becomes magnetic. You no longer chase life. Life starts coming to you. Women feel this. Even if they don't understand it intellectually, their intuition picks it up instantly. They feel safer. They open up. They remember you, not because of what you did, but because of who you were being. You become the exception. A man who doesn't just want them, but sees them. This is the desexualized mind, modern man's greatest untapped power. This is the freedom waiting on the far side of differentiation. This is the strength that comes not from controlling others, but from mastering yourself. The choice is yours. You can stay in unconscious identification, reactive, fragmented, easily manipulated, or you can begin the work of becoming whole, the rarest kind of man in the modern world. Because once your life is no longer run by unprocessed sexual energy, everything changes. You change. And that change isn't the end of your power, it's the beginning.